So just a little a little bit about Fairfax County. If you do not know, we were founded in 1742. We broke off from Prince William County. This was it. Originally, we included what is now Loudoun County, Arlington County, and the city of Alexandria. Loudoun County broke off in 1757 from Fairfax County. And then this Alexandria and Arlington broke off in the 1790s. They become part of District of Columbia, and then it's been drama ever since with them. So we work out of, we did. I won't get too much into it, but we are currently displaced. We were working in the historic courthouse, but we had some HVAC issues. So we are currently in the main courthouse on the third floor in land records, if you do want to come in. So the first courthouse was built up in 1742 in the Tyson's Corner area. And then in the 1750s, it moved to Alexandria. And then they had to move when they became part of the District of Columbia. But they had to move anyways because there was a law in the books that you had to be able to get to your county courthouse within 3 days horse ride. And if you're coming from out by Loudoun and going all the way into Alexandria, that's a really, really long ways. So they moved it to the center of the county, which is where we live now. The courthouse was built in 1700. First court case was in 1800, and we've been there ever since. So that kind of shows where the documents have gone, because there was always the courthouse and the clerk's office, and the documents went with it and went into the clerk's office. So obviously it was there during the Civil War. And so the clerk's office, unlike Loudoun, their clerk took all of the records with them. So that's why Loudoun County's records are complete. But our clerk only took with him George Washington's will and the votes of secession. He left everything else in there. So we are missing a few of the early order books and some of the deed books. And then something happened to all the loose files, the court cases and things like that. I don't want to blame everything on soldiers, because title companies were able to come in and do research up until like the 80s. They had their own keys to get in to do deed research. So things may have gone, they may have gotten legs then. But we have gotten some things back from New York, Pennsylvania, northern states that said this was taken by so-and-so, this was an attic, we found it, and then we've gotten them back. So we do have some things missing. So just like to talk a little bit about the population and how it's kind of really grown. We were pretty rural. When the third courthouse was built in 1800, the population in Fairfax County was only 13,000. And then 1900, it was 18,000. So it really hadn't grown that much. But 1950, it just boomed after the war. And so now we have 1.2 million people in the county. So we are the archive for the circuit court. It's kind of nice as archivists. We only have records related to the court that were produced by the court. So we are not bringing in new records unless they are returned. And we are not really getting rid of records. Most of our records end at about 1940. And so all of the records that are in the archive by the circuit court prior to 1913 have to be kept in perpetuity. So we are not destroying anything, which is really great. And then, of course, the court does have all of the records afterwards, but the Historic Record Center has up until about 1940, with the exception of tax records. And then the rest of it is in our offsite record facility. So they are housed in the courthouse. And then all of our records are public records, with the exception of a few records, any like sealed court cases. And then we have some commitment papers when people are committed to asylums, essentially. We have those. That's a sensitive record collection. So we do have them. They are indexed, but we have to check the time if someone wanted to access them. And then, so we are deputy clerks of the court. We are able to assess with records, like finding records. Mainly what we do is we process the records. We are putting them in folders, making indexes and putting those indexes online. But we are a little bit limited on the research that we can do. If it looks like it's leaning into legal research, sometimes we have to draw the line. And especially, we always want to help when people are looking for like the history of their property, and we're really excited to help them. But then they start going into, oh, well, I'm looking for this property line, I'm looking for this easement, and we have to back off because that's legal research with that. And we are happy to look at our indexes if they are not available online. I'll get into those a little bit later. So we will look at them for you if you're not able to make it in. But if it's someone who there's going to be like hundreds of cards, like a Mason or a Janney, and they have hundreds of cards, we aren't really able to do that. But we can help you get started. And so then some other records that you may not think that the court would have. Prior to the end of the war and Reconstruction in 1870, the court was essentially the county government. And so we have things that the government keeps now that you wouldn't necessarily think of as being court records. So we have road records, we have the tax records, we have, let's see, I'm trying to think of what else.
We have voting records.
Yeah.
We have some school records like school censuses.
We have dog taxes, which is a really actually fun and interesting collection. Yeah, all of the tax things were kept with us. And all of and I think this was everywhere in Virginia. When the Board of Supervisors was created, the clerk of the court was automatically the clerk of the Board of Supervisors. So I think it was all in the same like office essentially. And so we have a lot of Board of Supervisors records as well. But we do have, so we have the traditional records, obviously, that you would think of in the court as well. We have land records, probate records, the minute books, chancery cases, which is now civil cases, term papers, which are the law files and everything else. And then just people getting reimbursed for doing things for the county, such as working on roads, clearing roads, anyone working for the jail, justices of the peace getting paid for doing what they do, and then all kinds of other random things that people get paid for. Yes.
What about colonial vestries, which also had a civic?
Yes, we have presentments from the vestries. Yes, so thank you for bringing that up. So prior to the revolution, when essentially there was no separation of church and state, the court and the church work together. And so they are handling the poor, they are handling the orphans, they're handling essentially anything that is welfare today. And they're also bringing people in for morality law violations. So that's where you find people that you might not find normally, because they normally wouldn't be in the courts. So you're going to find people who are poor and people who are being brought in for having a child out of wedlock, any of those relationships, not going to church enough, whatever the established time was, swearing, all kinds of other fun stuff.
Busy today.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Different collections?
No, so those would be in the minute books. So the vestry minutes are kept with the church. So we are missing a lot. And then any of the marriages for the normal people, they would be kept with the church. We don't have those. I think I get into this a little bit later, but we don't have those until like this 1850s for the marriage license. We do have bastardy. Yes. And then a lot of times they would bind someone out to learn a trade. So yes, we do have all of those, the church records, if they would be in the minute books. Let's see. And then the vital records, as I said, those get started not until they're not standardized until about the 1850s, but they do show up. We might have marriage contracts. We might have someone, if they're getting married, she'll be pulled aside by the justices to make sure that she's okay with her land being controlled by her husband. And after that, the road records, which are really exciting. And then so for Loudoun, we do have the records from 1742 until 1757. So lots of Jannies. So So for land records, and this is, of course, anything like if you've gone to the Circuit Court of Loudoun's presentations, we have many of the same things. But the way that they've kind of been, I guess, processed and indexed may be a little bit different. So we have the deeds and property transactions from 1742 until today. We have the deed books, they include trusts, they include bill of sales, they include the marriage licenses that I was talking about. You might find deeds of manumission in there. And then if you're lucky, there will be a map with it. If you're really lucky, there will be a building on the map. And so we do have those indexes available online up until 1866. And then in person, we have more. And then if you come in and use our CPAN system, our court access network, those are all available on there as well. And we're open normal court days, so Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. But the City of Fairfax Library does have a CPAN terminal. So if you wanted to go on the weekends, you could look at those records on there.
What's the terminal called?
CPAN, the Court Public Access Network. So they have one there, and they're available in the evenings and weekends, so you can use those, and they're super helpful.
So you can search the deeds on that up to 1866, you said?
So on the Access Network, it's up till today. All the deeds are on there. Yes, all the deeds and wills. There's charters on there as well, but I think you'll mostly be interested in the deeds and wills. And they're super helpful for using. The indexes are not super like intuitive. They're kind of, I mean, all the courts I think did them the same way, but they are interesting. So, but up to 66, we've made it like a normal index where you have it's really easy to use. So, and then probate records, we are complete on those. We have all of our will books. So in there, you naturally have wills, you have estate accounts, you have estate inventories, which are fantastic. And we have guardian accounts, which are also super interesting. And that's going to be if someone is assigned to be a guardian, they have to account for all the money they spent on that person, that child, and you are an infant until you are 21 years of age. And so that's like, you find out where people are going to school, how much they paid for school, you find out how much they spent on clothing and those kinds of things. Stuff that you just wouldn't see anywhere else. Administrative bonds, if you are missing some information, if someone didn't make a will, sometimes they will show up in the administrator bonds because if they're still handling their account, someone will have to take out a bond for that. So sometimes that's where we will find missing information. And again, those indexes are available online, and those go to like 1936 is our index online. And then our minute books. So that one, we don't have a whole lot online yet. We have our index card system that I will talk about in a minute, but so minute books are from 1749. We're missing the first ones. Hopefully we'll get them back from like Pennsylvania or New York at some time. So we have those up until about the 1940s, and that is everything that happened in court. So it's just like a meeting minute. At the top, they will write down the justices that are there that day. And it was everything that was heard, all the court cases, but then it's also other things like the vestry, grand jury presentments. You might have people getting paid. You might have just all kinds of things, anything that went before the court, people being sworn in, all kinds of exciting stuff. And so those, we are missing a few of those around the Revolutionary War period. We did have a guy that lived in our county. His name was George Washington. And so I think that they just took the pages out that had his name on it, and they may have had his signatures too. So I have a feeling that's why a lot of them are missing from the Revolutionary War time.
Question.
Yes.
I think here the courts were closed during the first part of the Revolution.
Maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was because there was basically no government except the revolutionary government. at that time from 70, actually, I think maybe it started from 74 or 75.
But we have bonds, fiduciary bonds from that time. So they were doing something.
Okay.
And we're not missing any of the will books.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have the will books for that time period. So
Yeah,
there was some form of court function still happening.
Right.
In fact.
yeah. And it's very possible. Sometimes we have the like rough draft of the minute books, and then they clearly took that and then made like a formal copy, final draft. And so some of the ones that we're missing, the final draft, we do have the rough draft, but I think a lot of people would probably see those rough drafts and just throw them away because they're really messy. And a lot of them were probably left in attics and in places that they may not have lasted. But or it's in somebody's attic somewhere in Maine. Let's see. And then as we were just talking about, the early books show the religious and moral offenses. So that's fun. And then so let's see. I'll talk about the index a little bit later. Chancery records are a fantastic collection. Our collection, so it is basically the civil court today. And so Chancery was the court of equity. That's where you are going to go if you have an estate that you needed to have divided up. And so these are really great if you can find them, because they a lot of times will have maps in them that show how the properties were divided up. Divorce shows up in there, and anything that needs to be divided up essentially. And so those we have, Library of Virginia has done, they did this great project where they went through and they processed our Chancery records up until a certain time. And then all of the records 1913 and prior are digitized. They're available on the Library of Virginia's site. And they did that for most of the counties that participated in that. And so that's an invaluable collection. We do have them up until about 1940 after that, and we're happy to scan them and send them to you. But we are missing, they started about 1803, but there's not very many of those until about 1840 is when we start getting a complete collection.
Why only 1803? Because they did exist before that.
They did. We don't know. Yeah, we don't know what happened to them. Yeah, unfortunately. And then TER papers they're also called judgments. That is essentially everything else that happened in court. So they took the Chancery cases out, but everything else is in there. So that is everything that happened in court for that term. And so after they were done with the case, they would fold it up and they would put it in a bundle, and they would wrap it in red twine ribbon, and then they were stored in bundles in drawers. And so that's a lot of what we do is we unfold those, we unbundle them, and we flatten them, put them in folders, and then make an index, and then put them online so you guys can access them. So in there, we have lots of different things. We have the criminal cases. We have licenses, which there's all kinds of licenses that you might not think about. The alcohol licenses naturally, but we have soft drink licenses. We have dance hall permits, all kinds of exciting things. All the oaths of office, again, the public officials who are getting paid by the court for the various things that they did, and then all the other civil cases, tons of debt.
I think those are what's called loose papers in Loudoun.
Probably, yeah.
Same thing. But they only started in 1819.
Yes, yeah. So we're missing a lot of the loose papers. Yeah, unfortunately.
But we would have, it's something that would be in a term paper that's missing, there would still be a minute book entry for it. It wouldn't be like the complete case information and stuff like that, but there would still be a record.
Yeah, so we'd have the final order.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, we're missing a lot. Yeah.
So weird question about Fairfax, there's like a lot of dairy farmers.
Mhm.
And so like I've run into some things like some newspaper references to somebody being cited for like adding stuff to their milk to make it more, I don't know. Well, and to be able to sell more of it. And I was just wondering if you'd run into anything like that in the term papers, like related to like the milk production.
I have not, but this is where they would be. Well, either that or Chancery. And this is where, so here and then in the Chancery cases, because these are like court cases, that's where you're going to get the depositions. That's where you're going to get the transcripts of testimony. And so that's where you would get that
Yeah, it's like
information.
I see people being fined because of like whatever.
Oh.
That they were selling.
Okay.
And I was like, that is interesting.
Mhm.
There's just so many dairy farms.
Yes, there are. Yeah.
So I was like, wait, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is where it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And I think the dairy didn't take off until a little bit later, so they should be in here if they were brought to court for it.
Yeah, it was like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there are things that are handled by the justice of the peace that don't actually make it to us. So like sometimes we'll get like we'll see it in a newspaper, but it just never made it to the actual court. It was handled by the justice of the peace. But hopefully it went to court. Hopefully they really cared about what was put in the milk.
And those are indexed so that.
Those are indexed and we are up to 1919. Yeah, so we used the model of what Library of Virginia did for the Chancery project to process these. So yeah, they're like, we're almost to prohibition and we're excited about that. Yes. And then we have the vital records. So we have the marriage licenses after 1853. And then we have a small window of birth and death records from 1912 to 1917. But we do have another window of the birth and death registers that are not separate like certificates, but essentially when they went around and they were doing the census, they would ask, was anyone born and did anyone die? And there is some information in there that you wouldn't find like in actual like a certificate, because it'll say who was providing the information and it'll say their relationship to whoever was born or died. And that yeah, it tells a lot, especially about slavery and people who were free Black people. So there's a lot of information in there. A lot of these are available on Ancestry and Family Search as well. But we have the originals. And we also have our index cards. We have those included in there as well. So it's easy to find. And then our tax and election and road records. We have processed all our road records and then also the railroad records. So the dairy farms were really impacted when the railroads started coming through. We have a lot of those people going against the railroads, and then farmers and nurseries. A lot of the nurseries were not happy. We have a great court case where, as evidence, they submitted, it was a nursery, they submitted the glass plates for their greenhouse, and then some of like the flowers that were covered in soot and some other things. So we still have it still covered in soot like 100 years later. And let's see, in the tax books. So we have digitally, we have from the beginning 1783 until 1870, and then we have the physical books after that, and up until 1980. And so that is when we moved, we were only able to bring some of our collections, but the tax records, we use them all the time for our land research. So those are important. So we brought those over, and that's also what we are getting conserved because they're so valuable and so useful. The road records, which some of them would be extending out into Loudoun County for sure. Those are processed, and those are great because when a road was built, it was altered, or they closed down a road, you would have to get permission from all of your neighbors. So you might find people who show up in those records that you're not going to find anywhere else, and you find their original signature, which is cool. And a lot of times it'll come with a map, so you can see where all of the neighbors lived. The election records, we have the 1902, I guess it was kind of like a census of all the voters. That one's super valuable. That's now indexed and is available online. And so yes, any questions about the land records?
When you say online, are you talking through that CPAN that you were talking about, or are you talking about like just? How are you talking about?
So any of the indexes that we make are on our website, on the Historic Record Center website. But yeah, so the will and deed indexes are.
So what's
on
the difference
CPAN.
between that and CPAN?
Oh, that's just basically their spreadsheets. So you'll like click on it and it'll open up a spreadsheet. So it's
Okay.
keyword searchable, whereas the CPAN is not. It's a different type of index. So if so we have the indexes for basically everything that's on there, except for some of the later deeds. So basically after 1866, but everything else we have on our website. It's probably easier to use on our website. Yeah, but so CPAN is where you can actually see the deeds and the wills.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then for our notable wills that are our notable records that we like to pull out and show off, we have George Washington's and Martha Washington's wills. They were Fairfax County residents, and we don't have a lot of the original wills. Usually I don't know what happened to them. They were part of the loose papers that probably disappeared at some point. But we do have George and Martha's wills. We have a great bond book. This is like one of the few things that we have that's related to the Revolutionary War. So the bond was basically if you were assigned to be an executor, you had to take out a bond so that you were proving that you're saying that you would not take a little bit off the top for yourself. You were carrying out their wishes. But the way that it is that they're dated, it was during the colonial period. And so they're mentioning the king, and it's kind of fun to see what they do with it afterwards. We have a little graffiti in a rule book. So that's fun. If you come in, we will show you the will book. The order book. We have the ordinance of secession votes. So we have some of the same people also who are in this area. We have the Jannies in there, some of the people who are right over the border in Fairfax County. And then we also have, we don't have the Northern Net Grants, that's kept with the Library of Virginia, but we have a really great map that if you can find the property that you're looking for today in Fairfax County, you can find the tax map number, you can see who owned the first owner, basically, the first grant owner from that on the map. And then when it comes to researching slavery, in 2015, I was an intern with the Historic Record Center for Mason. And what I was originally supposed to do was go through the will book indexes and see if there was a mention of slavery at all. And so I did that. I was just going through and marking a check mark next to it. But we were finding so much information in there that we wanted to find some way of capturing it and making it so that we could make connections with people. And so we ended up creating what became the slavery index. And so it has now moved. We've gone through all of the will books. We've gone through all of the deed books, and then some other collections, the birth and death records. And now it's continuously growing. But so we have, let's see. So we have all of the enslaved listed. It's mostly first names. And you see here, the bottom one is an example of an enslaved card. So it has the name, it has the reference there on the right, and then it has the person, like the enslaver. And so then the enslaver should have their own card. We have a collection of those as well. And then so you should be able to go to that card and see everyone else that is listed with them. We also have enslaved with last names, and then we have free people collection as well. And then we started later on capturing hirers. This is not complete, but anyone who hired, because there were a lot of people who didn't actually own slaves, but they would hire other people's for a year at a time, 2 years at a time. And there were babies born, relationships, So we wanted to capture that as well. Let's see. And then,
What would you expect to see for a free person of color?
so anything we can find, essentially. And once you know that they're free, they should be in other records, so you can check our other index card catalog that I will talk about in just a second. But anything we could find in those collections, so the wills and the deeds, and then the birth registers, I'm trying to think, and the personal property tax records, that's another thing that's included. And then the registration of Free Negroes book, which is not complete. We don't have the first book, we have the second two. So if they're listed in those, they will be in there as well. And then there's also freedom suits in the Chancery records. There is supposed to be a way on the Library of Virginia website to include any enslaved people, but it's a little finicky. So we have another index card system that really is really easy to check, and they capture everyone. So yeah, if it doesn't work there, then we have a way that we should help make it work. And then we have people who are listed in the tax records if they note that they are a free person of color. And then, so this is our other indexing system. This was done for the bicentennial as a project. And so some women went through all of the minute books and they pulled out every name. And so the problem with looking at all of the minute book indexes is usually it's just, well, first of all, it's only plaintiff and defendant, and it's usually only indexed by the plaintiff name and not the defendant name. So that's hard. And then also you have to look at each book if you don't know an exact date. So this is super helpful because it lists everybody, even if you were a juror, if you gave testimony, if you're listed at all, if you worked on a road, you are listed in there if you were in a minute book. There's some other books, kind of like one-off books where we only have one of them. And obviously there was a whole collection of them at one point. Those are in there. We have subject index cards, which is super helpful. We have birth and death records. We have implied marriages. So if they saw, if they're mentioned in a deed as being husband and wife, but we don't, it was too early for marriage licenses. We have that. I'm trying to think of what else we have.
Name cards.
Yes.
So if there's a neighborhood or a historic site or even just an area, sometimes those cards will have a full chain of title for the property already done on them, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. And then the chancery.
Yeah.
The chancery cases. So and the other great thing is so the chancery cases, the loose files, a lot of times they're really hard to read because they're just scribbling it down as they're talking. So they were great at reading those and just giving a synopsis on each card. So sometimes I don't even get it from the case. I'm I don't know what they're talking about, but if there's a card, it's super helpful. The only drawback is it ends at they only did about 100 years. So it ends at about 1880. So we would love to continue it someday. When we run out of things to process, continue it on so that we can really get everybody in there. We are working on creating new indexes, transcribing the indexes that are in the front of the minute books and also including defendants. So you can keyword search that way. And so that will be up till about 1940. And we were really hoping to digitize all of this. We've scanned all the cards in and our IT department was supposed to have made a system to where we could make it public and people could search the cards. But that didn't work. And we're working on finding someone else who can fix the system. But that is in the works. We were hoping it could be part of the 250th anniversary, since this was a bicentennial project, that we could do our part now. But that didn't happen, but it's in the works. We hope that eventually people will be able to search the cards online. But in the meantime, if you want us to just take a peek for you, please let us know and we can send it to you. And we have scanned in and it's searchable up until I think J. So if you have one of those, we can we have the ability to make it into a spreadsheet and send you anyone who pops up in there. So, and then some other resources that people have made throughout the years, usually during like the 80s and 90s, back before all the digital resources, and they're like sending stuff to like requesting stuff from the Library of Virginia. I don't know how they did all of this, but I'm so thankful they did. We have an 1860 map or 1860 project where one of our researchers, she takes all of the landowners in 1860 and she lays it over a 1980s map so you can see exactly where their land was. And then for each one of those people, she has a biography. And so it shows like, shows where they lived. It shows the agricultural census, any other census records, the slavery index is in there. So it's fantastic. She also, if she could figure it out, we have a chain of title for each of those parcels going back as far as she could. Some of them were complicated, so they don't have them for all of them, but it's an amazing
So if
resource.
we know where someone is or a property is on the map and wanted to access those biographies, what does that look like? Because I've got some.
Okay, you can email us and we can send you the map and we can send you the bios for those people.
Excellent.
But if you want to come in, you're also welcome to do that. Let's see, yeah, so I just talked about those. And then, so again, we are all deputy clerks, so we are limited on assisting with legal research, but we love helping you. We will do everything we can. It's just sometimes we have to draw the line. And so, yeah, this will be, our records are great for genealogy records, property research, and then we work a lot with the local university. We're really close with George Mason University's Center for Mason Legacies. They use a lot of our records to create projects, which is fantastic. And so, yeah, questions? Yes.
Is it best to make an appointment to come in to see?
You don't have to, but just so we can make sure there's someone available to help you give the assistance that we like to give. Yeah, you can email us or call and we can put you on those. Fridays are the best days, just to put that out there. We just don't have as much going on usually, and there's quite a few of us there on Fridays. So I don't know, that's usually the days that we get to go down rabbit holes. So we're happy to go down your rabbit holes with you.
8 to 4.
Yes. Yes.
Your general email address?
It's on the brochures here. If you want to put it in the chat, it's CCR Historic Records at fairfaxcounty.gov.
And then our phone number is 703-246-4168.
Now, it was the case, I think at least a couple of years ago, you said that you didn't have to go through courthouse security to get into your, like you do here.
Yeah,
Is that
so
fun?
now that we're in the main courthouse, you do have to go through security, but you can bring laptops and cell phones.
We allow laptops and phones.
Mhm.
So.
Yes.
Which it's allowed to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
And are you moving back to the other location or this is a permanent?
We will eventually. We have no idea when at this point. It started out with being a year that we would be out of there so they could fix the HVAC issue. But now, funding, now they're talking about 3 years. We heard 2030 thrown out there not too long ago. So yeah, it's really
What about the
unfortunate.
records that are there? You said you didn't take all the records with you. What about?
Right.
Are those inaccessible then until then?
So we have a lot of them at our offsite facility, so the chancery records are there, the marriage licenses are there, some of our other collections are over there. There are things that are waiting to be processed are there. So if you want to let us know what you want to look at, beforehand, we can, if we need to pull something from offsite, we can request it. We could also meet you at the offsite facility. If like all you wanted to look at was chancery records, we could meet you there and do that as well.
Okay.
Um,
So if you have a story that you're dealing with where someone says this property was in the family, but taken by eminent domain, whatever, like how would you research a property that was subject to eminent domain?
yeah, so that would likely be in a chancery case. Like they can't just take it. There has to be some sort of case that it should be involved in.
Okay,
It should say in the deed books, because it does have to transfer. It should be in the deed books. The easiest way is to check with the tax books and see like
okay,
when they're showing up there, when the family's showing up there, and then see when they're not showing up there. And then that's how you know how to target where you're going to look in the deed book indexes, the chancery indexes, or any other indexes. Yes. But we should have it.
Is that the old courthouse where you were before?
Yes, that's her.
So you're kicked out of it temporarily?
Yes, yes.
You hope it's temporary.
Yes, we hope it's temporary. Yes, so we gave tours in there and we don't work in that actual building, but our building is like attached to it. We're in the 1928 edition. So the new part. But yes, so unfortunately, because we wanted to host things there for the 250th, and it's just pretty, like they can get married in there. So we do miss her. Are there any questions in the chat? Okay.
I wanna know what the most interesting thing is you found that caught your attention, each of you.
Oh.
Might have the same.
Yeah, divorce is fabulous. There's a divorce case that like, I can't go into it. There's so much. There's peacocks living in attic rooms. There's horse trainers. There's Brooklyn. There's
Like transcontinental affairs.
yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Drinking problems, Ireland. It's like, it's so great. It needs to be made into a movie. If anyone wants to look it's on the LVA Chancery website. It's Topping versus Topping.
They lived on 55 Pineapple Street.
Yeah,
Oh.
in Brooklyn. Yes.
In Brooklyn.
Nice, yeah.
Really?
Friendlands. Okay.
Wow. Okay, you definitely need to check this out. Yeah. Yeah, but just like the things that people say, the oversharing that happens in divorce cases. We also have well, it wasn't a shotgun wedding, it was a pistol wedding.
Yeah.
Where a man was, he was told that he was the father and they kidnapped him. They actually brought him to Loudoun, but they stopped at the courthouse. There we go.
Thank you.
So yeah, there's a shotgun wedding.
So,
Other questions? Oh yeah, what's your favorite thing?
The topping case. Well, my real favorite thing is the bond book where they cross out the part about being under King George. But the topping case is a wild ride. So.
Yeah, we probably should say something like George Washington as well, but like, George Mason things.
No, it's the divorce.
No, it's the little people.
Enormous.
Yeah, it's the average people that,
Yeah. No, it's why I almost always ask that question to people, because like it's always.
Yeah. And we do people want photos, and unfortunately we don't have a lot of photos. We send them to the Library of Virginia, the Virginia room, for photos and newspaper articles. Basically, we only have things that were introduced as evidence in cases. But once that starts becoming more common photos, then they really start including them more. And so, yeah, there's some great ones.
are your plats indexed?
Not the way that Loudoun has it. done. So it's really where it is in a deed book, but we don't have really a separate collection of plats. We do have a few books that have plats, but it's normally, those are usually subdivisions, so those are later. So yeah, we don't have it like Loudoun does.
Yeah, we do have a record of surveys book where there's typically like a drawn survey along with like the text of the survey.
But those are early.
Yeah,
Those are
early.
like
Yeah,
79. I mean, they might have things related to Loudoun in there,
yeah.
but yeah, they're super early.
Another question. I think the Loudoun tithe records started 1758 or something like that. Do you have them earlier?
No, ours started in 1783, which is when they did the first tax.
Right, well, that replaced the tithe.
Yeah, we don't have anything earlier than that.
So what if a property was right on the border, it's like in eastern Loudoun, I can walk across the border, right?
Mhm.
So like, what happens if a property, let's take the Lowe's. They had property, like, I think that was on both sides of whatever the border was when the border was created.
Yeah,
Where would I research?
so it should be in both.
It should be both.
Yes, it should be in both, but we would be obviously interested only in our portion. Like when it comes to surveys or anything like that.
But like the earlier surveys before it was split would have been with you still?
Yes, yes, it would be with us until 1757.
Because I know these county changes, it's like being from an individual.
Yes.
Perspective, and so where would they vote? Like if a property would cross the border, where would they vote?
That's a good question. We'd have to check ours to see if they show up in ours, in our voting records.
Okay,
Yeah,
just curiosities.
yeah. I wonder if they voted for local things in both, since both of them affected them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a good question. We will check. Yeah, but yeah, there are quite a few that are just on the border. Usually, but though, like a map will have, the plat will have the whole thing, usually. Yeah. I have questions.
Well, me personally, I'm interested in your Mason Legacies work with George Mason University. So the Thomas Balch Library also works with them because Thompson Mason lived out in Loudoun County. But other than, George Mason, what kind of projects do you work with George Mason, the man, not the university? What other projects do you do with the university in terms of like subjects matter with the Mason Legacies?
So they are teaching classes using our records. So they just did a Fairfax courthouse class where they went through January 1950, which was exciting for us because we don't normally see past like 1940. So I sent them the minute book entries and the order book entries for January 1950 and all of the cases. And so they went through all of those and we digitized all of them, and they're making a more interactive and more useful index for that. So it'll say like the criminal index just says the name. It doesn't say the type of crime. And so they're making it to where you can search by crime, things like that. And they're just seeing other ways that they can make things digitally available. So, and that's going to continue on in time up to the 1980s. So there's that right now. Dr. Overly is teaching a class where, and he's done this once before, where each student is assigned someone from, in the district, they're assigned someone from the 1891 tax book. And so they are supposed to research the land from that person as far back as they can go, and then as far forward as they can go, and then also the person. So kind of like the 1860 project, but it's just one person. So it's just kind of like constantly talking to them about what we have, and then they use that information to create courses and projects based off of that. So they're really looking into a lot of the, they have the Black Lives Next Door project, which I know you guys are part of, and so they're looking into our communities as well. But I do love that with them working with you and working with us, we're kind of making it just a whole like Nova thing. We're taking down the borders.
Great, thank you, Karen.
Yeah.
So what about the slave trade? So like we've got a slave trader in Loudoun County, George Keppert, who we now know is the
Yeah.
aunt company of Price Merchant Company in Alexandria.
Mhm.
And so like what types of records would have been generated by the trade? Would there have been tax records, or like what have you stumbled upon that is related to the trade in slavery?
Yeah, we have a lot. It just might not be obvious that that's what it is when you first look at it. Like we have one of the early chancery cases is Keppert trying to get basically reimbursed from Bruin, his partner in Alexandria. And it is full of like, it's on Library of Virginia, but seeing in person is just
You have
something
it?
else. We have it. It is full of slips of him going to all the different counties, all the different places where people are being bought and sold. And it is them, like they had a printed receipt for buying people. And it was like who they bought, how much they were worth, and it's just full of those. And then we have like, because a lot of like in Fairfax County, probably the most trading was done at the courthouse because they are taking people as basically collateral, or if you don't pay your taxes, they will take people. And then they would sell them at the courthouse. They would auction them off, usually on the 1st of January. And then also that's where the hirings would be done. So we have a ton. It just may not be obvious. And you have to kind of check everywhere. You have to see if someone was brought to court. And a lot of those, that's the hard thing about capturing the chancery records in the index is people are they're trying to get reimbursed like 50 years later when slavery is gone. So you wouldn't think to look in the 1880s, 1890s, but they're trying to get money back from prior to that. So we have a ton. There's a lot of people who are involved. The sheriff was very involved. Walker Millen was very involved in the slave trade. He worked with Keppert. He worked with Grigsby, who was the slave trader in Centerville, and then he also worked with Bruin. So there's really no separation with the court and the slave trade. So we have a lot. You just kind of have to know who you're looking for, and you have to check a lot of different collections. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for coming, and thank you everyone online.
Thank you.